After serving for 18 years, the board decided to replace me with the son-in-law of the CEO. A phone call I received altered everything. We are in need of new pony power. Words pounded the meeting room like a sledgehammer as they were said. I was sitting at the end of the table that had been polished, and as the voice of the board chairman reverberated off the glass walls, my coffee began to get ice cold. This was the way that my 18 years of employment with Gravura Group came to an end. I introduced myself as Walter Briggs. I am 58 years old, and up until that point in time, I served as the Senior Vice President of Operations for one of the most dependable logistics organizations with headquarters in Houston. I was responsible for constructing their route network from the ground up, rescuing 3 large accounts during the economic downturn of 2008, and guiding them through another economic downturn in 2020 without one single driver being laid off. I was under the impression that that was significant. While continuing, the chairman did not look directly into my eyes. "We are bringing in someone with a fresh outlook," he said, "and someone who is familiar with the intricacies of modern business." The identity of that person was crystal clear to me. 33 years old is the age of Chase Langford. Having a background in lifestyle marketing and having no experience in logistics, she is married to the daughter of the chief executive officer. I had been aware of the rumors for a considerable amount of time, the meals with the family, during which business was discussed, and the golf outings, during which decisions were taken before they even made it to the boardroom. After folding my hands on the table, I waited for a moment. This is a pointless argument. There is no use in listing my achievements or the contracts that I were personally responsible for managing. It was possibly several weeks ago when the choice was already made. The chief executive officer finally turned his head in my direction and said, "Walter, we are grateful for everything you have done for Gravura Group as a result of your efforts." His voice conveyed the tone of someone who has practiced this talk, as if they had been trying to perfect it. "Everyone has taken note of your commitment. Observed. 18 years, condensed into a single word. Another 20 minutes were added to the meeting's duration. The transition preparations, the schedule for my replacement, and the farewell event that they would organize were all topics that were covered. I was unable to speak as I listened, as my thoughts were already elsewhere. Touched the edge of a business card that I had been carrying about for 3 months, and that was located in the pocket of my blazer. A card that has the potential to alter everything. Following the conclusion of the meeting, I made my way back to my office and started packing my personal belongings. The gathering meeting to say goodbye was planned to take place the following Friday. Just the right amount of time for Chase to observe me and figure out the fundamentals of something that I had spent nearly 20 years honing. As I was stuffing my coffee mug inside the cardboard box, I heard a buzzing sound on my phone. Catherine, my daughter, sent me a text message. "What was the outcome of the board meeting, Dad?" I took a long moment to look at the message before responding, with a typed message. A significant shift is on the horizon. I did not let her know that I had recently been compelled to retire earlier than expected. The fact that my replacement was a 30-something with connections but no experience was something I did not disclose to her. When I had worked out what I was going to do next, I would put that talk on hold until later. I could feel the weight of the business card that was in my pocket. Someone who had reached out to me several months back was the owner of it. Whoever realized the significance of maintaining long-term ties in this sector of the economy. Someone who could perhaps be highly interested in what I have to offer for them. The following morning, I arrived at my office earlier than usual and sat there, watching the dawn paint the cityscape of Houston in a golden and orange hue. Since 2007, I had been coming to this very same office. At that time, Gravura Group was a medium-sized organization that was having difficulty competing with the major companies. I was able to contribute to that change. I was reminded of my first significant triumph, which was the deal with Petromax Industries. We were told by everyone that we were not capable of handling a business worth $120 million. For a period of 6 months, I worked on developing connections with their procurement team, gaining an understanding of their delivery requirements, and devising a route system that resulted in a 15% reduction in their expenses. After we were successful in securing that contract, the chief executive officer visited me in his office and extended his hand to shake mine. According to what he had said, Walter, you had just saved this company. It was during that time that he still recognized the contributions I had made. Over the course of several years, I had constructed something substantial in this location. Genuine connections with drivers who had faith in me, customers who appreciated our dependability, and suppliers who understood that a handshake with Walter Briggs was just as good as any contract. In order to handle emergency shipments, I had to miss dinners with my family. In order to settle the underlying difficulties, I had labored through the weekends. In order to assist in covering payroll during the difficult months of 2009, I had even taken out a mortgage on my home. On the other hand, things changed at some point along the route. It was determined that the son-in-law of the chief executive officer would begin attending client meetings. The way Chase would sit in the corner, taking notes on his phone and asking questions that demonstrated he had a fundamental misunderstanding of our business strategy was very interesting. I could see the perplexity in the eyes of the customers, despite the fact that they were courteous. Where did this child come from? For several months, the warning indicators had been steadily increasing. When it came to strategic discussions, my participation was asked less frequently. All of a sudden, the financial team was in charge of making decisions regarding the budget, which had previously required my permission. The response I received, when I voiced my worries on a proposed route change that may have an effect on our most important client, was that my viewpoint was relevant, but that it might be too focused on the past. It wasn't until 3 months ago when nothing was unclear. When Alyssa Cormack from Petromax Industries contacted my direct line, I was in the process of analyzing our quarterly statistics on the happiness of our previous customers. Over the course of 8 years, Alyssa had served as my principal point of contact at that location, and I regarded her as both a friend and a professional ally. She had remarked, "Walter, I need to ask you something that is not open to public scrutiny. Does Gravura Group have any plans to undergo any changes? The speculations that are circulating concerning new leadership and operations are being heard by some of our executives." To her, I had been completely truthful. There has been no official announcement made as of yet, but there may be some changes in the pipeline. "I see," she had whispered in a low voice. Following that, she had presented me with her personal business card. "Please give me a call if anything changes. It would be irresponsible to let go of the bond that we have developed." While I was expressing my gratitude to her, I slipped the card away in my wallet, not giving it any thought at the moment. Now, when I was sitting in my office for what has the potential to be one of the last times, I realized what it was that she had been providing all along. It was not just her business card, it was a key to survival. The afternoon of Friday approached, like a storm that was advancing slowly. The meeting to say goodbye was supposed to take place at 4 o'clock. Located in the primary conference room, which was the identical space in which my professional life had come to an end 3 days earlier. I spent the morning instructing Chase on our most important accounts, and while he was nodding his head in agreement, it was obvious that he was not understanding the complexity of what we were doing. During the meeting that we had to discuss the Petromax deal, he stated that, in essence, all we do is carry products from one location to another. How difficult could it possibly be? I did not offer any corrections to him. I have just handed him the customer folder and advised that he thoroughly check the delivery parameters. At 3:30 o'clock in the afternoon, I gathered the last of my personal belongings and made my way to the meeting room. The business had placed an order for a cake that included the words, "Thank you, Walter," inscribed in blue frosting. Approximately 20 individuals were present, the majority of whom were drivers and warehouse workers who had worked with me for a number of years. It appears that the board members were preoccupied with other obligations. There was a brief remark given by the chief executive officer regarding the efforts and dedication that I have made. The years of service that I had provided were mentioned, and he wished me success in my future undertakings. Chase took a step forward once he had completed his work. I would like to begin by saying, with that recognizable grin spreading across Chase's face, that Walter has done an excellent job here, but you should also keep in mind that business is constantly changing. We require new ideas and new inspiration. Your time has come to an end, old man, but you should not be concerned about it. Everything you have constructed will be well taken care of by me. There was complete silence in the room. Uncomfortably, a number of the drivers altered their positions. It was actually one of the warehouse supervisors who turned their head away. There was a sensation that something within me became very silent and very still. There was no response from me. In no way did I argue. The only thing I did was stand up, shake hands with the people who were important to me, and then get out of there with my cardboard box. I did not start the engine of my truck for a considerable amount of time when I was parked in the parking lot. When the sun was setting behind the office building, it formed lengthy shadows across the asphalt surrounding the structure. As I reflected on the past 18 years, I thought of the early mornings and late evenings. When I thought about the employees who relied on me and the customers who trusted me, I was filled with gratitude. The smile on Chase's face and his nonchalant disdain of what I had done were things that I thought about. After that, I took out my phone and discovered the business card belonging to Alyssa Cormack. On the second ring, she responded to the call. "Who is Walter?" I was curious about the time that you would call. Quite simply, I stated that the board had made their move. I was aware of it. You mean Chase Langford, right? Specifically the son-in-law who has experience in marketing? No, you are correct. A brief pause transpired. Then Alyssa came up to Walter and said, "I believe it is time for us to have a conversation. Are you available for supper the following day?" In my final moment of employment with Gravura Group, I started my truck and drove out of the parking area where I had been stationed. I assured her that I would be present. While I was driving home, I experienced a sensation that I had not felt in several months. Not rage, not resentment, but clarity is what's needed. It was only the beginning of the game. On the evening of Saturday, I went to a steakhouse on the west side of Houston, where I was able to meet Alyssa. I was able to comprehend the reason behind her selection of a corner booth that was situated away from the main dining area when she opened her leather portfolio and spread a number of documents scattered across the table. "It is important that you understand how sad I am about what took place," she continued, "before we forward with the transaction. After 18 years of working together, they have replaced you with someone who questioned me the previous week whether or not we required our chemicals to be transported in trucks that were refrigerated. I came close to smiling at it. I was questioned about refrigerated vehicles for industrial lubricants, and he asked you about them. It appears that he had us confused with a company that provides food service." Shaking her head, Alyssa said, "For the past 15 years, I have been working in the procurement field. You have never been more dependable than anyone else I have ever worked with. When you state that a delivery will arrive at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it arrives at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. On the Tuesday." A summary of the deal was ripped out by her. "This is the arrangement that we have with Gravora Group at the moment. Over the course of 3 years, $120 million will be renewable. The amount constitutes approximately 40% of their total revenue. These numerals were ingrained in my memory. It is true." She went on to explain that this is something that Chase does not comprehend. In addition to competitive price, the existence of this contract is due to the existence of relationships. Following the pipeline disaster that occurred in 2018, you personally drove out to our site at midnight in order to coordinate the response. This was necessary because we need emergency chemical delivery. Within a span of 6 hours, you were able to locate an alternative supply for us after our regular vendor failed us during the freeze the previous year. My recollection of both instances was crystal clear. That is the actual job. I'm sorry, Walter, but that is not the job description. That is going above and beyond on a consistent basis for a number of years. And now they anticipate that I will continue to provide the same quality of service to someone who believes that logistics is nothing more than the act of transporting things from one location to another. The position of Alyssa was forward-leaning. In order to investigate potential alternative logistical agreements, Petromax Industries has given me permission to do so. After 60 days, our agreement with Gravora Group will come to an end. They will lose their most important customer if we decide not to renew our contract. Taking care, I placed my coffee cup on the table. "What exactly are you recommending?" Bayflex Maritime reached out to us approximately half a year ago. The inland logistics branch is expanding, and they are searching for experienced leadership to oversee the expansion. They made me an offer that was really competitive, but I told them that we were content with the service that we were already using. It was a pause. Since then, our current provider has incorporated you in their services. Finally, I was able to comprehend the reason for her desire to keep this talk private. In addition, if I were to become a member of Bayflex Maritime, then we would have a reason to rethink their overall proposition. Over the course of the following hour, Alyssa detailed everything. Bayflex Maritime was a corporation that had its headquarters in Houston and had robust financial status as well as aggressive expansion aspirations. In order to successfully oversee their new logistics section, they required someone who had developed ties with their customers. It would be an executive consultant role, and there would be a large amount of equity involvement. During her statement, she pushed a document across the table and stated that the offer is large. The most essential thing, however, is that it provides an opportunity to start something fresh without having to deal with the politics and family connections that took your career at Gravora Group by storm. I reviewed the terms in a prompt manner. Although the basic compensation was comparable to other positions, the equity package was absolutely remarkable. My investment in Bayflex Maritime would be worth more than the sum of all the money I had made in the previous 5 years combined, if the company were to meet the growth targets they had forecasted. Alyssa went on to say that there is one stipulation. By the end of the next 2 weeks, Bayflex Maritime need a response. They intend to make the announcement of the new head of the division before the month comes to a close. I brought my gaze away from the documents. Just 2 weeks is not a lot of time. According to her, Gravora Group has had sufficient time to make the realization of what they are really losing. On the following Friday, I intend to let them know that we will not be renewing our contract moving forward. I will also note that we are investigating the possibility of forming partnerships with businesses that have leadership that is more seasoned. Despite the fact that we had just finished our supper and were talking about the market circumstances and logistics, my mind was already running through the ramifications. In order for Chase to understand that Petromax Industries was moving their business elsewhere, they would have to handle the relationship with Petromax Industries for exactly 9 days. He would be completely clueless about how to react. He would have no ties to leverage, and he would have no comprehension of what had gone wrong. While I was driving home, I experienced a sensation that I had not felt since I terminated my employment. It is anticipated. Not really with the purpose of exacting retribution, but more for the chance to demonstrate that experience and relationships were still important in the corporate world. I had 48 hours to make a decision, but to tell you the truth, I had already made up my mind the instant Chase referred to me as an elderly person whose time had come to an end. I called Bayflex Maritime on Monday morning and set up a meeting with their management team after making the necessary arrangements. The headquarters of the company were situated in a contemporary office building that was situated close to the ship channel. As I made my way through the lobby of the company, I was able to comprehend the reasons why Alyssa had been impressed with their proposition. Victoria Henley, the chief executive officer, had previously worked as an executive for ExxonMobil and had a comprehensive understanding of the energy logistics industry all the way through. It had been 5 years since she had established Bayflex Maritime, which had received support from private equity investors. The company had experienced quick expansion by concentrating on the transportation of specialty chemicals and fuel. The moment we sat down in Victoria's office, she told Walter that his reputation preceded him from the beginning. Regarding the work that you have done at Gravura Group, I have received nothing except feedback that is positive. Simply having a relationship with Petromax Industries is significantly more valuable than the overall money that the majority of businesses bring in. I admired her courage to speak her mind. Within the realm of inland logistics, Alyssa Cormack advised that you might be interested in extending your business. I am more than interested in this. For the past 18 months, we have been preparing this growth. Nevertheless, we have been looking for the proper individual to head it, a person who has developed relationships and has demonstrated success results. She sat back in her chair and leaned back. There is a possibility that Alyssa did not convey the fact that we have been paying close attention to the performance of Gravura Group. Their ability to retain customers has drastically decreased over the course of the past year. It came as a surprise to me. There were no significant client losses that I was aware of. There were 3 accounts that had their contracts terminated within the past half year. Communication problems and concerns over the dependability of the service were also brought up. It is likely that the board members made the changes that they did because they have been working hard to keep the revenue at the same level. Victoria took a folder out of her bag. After Alyssa got in touch with us, we embarked on some research. It would appear that Gravura Group's financial situation is more stable than it actually is. Their debt-to-equity ratio has significantly expanded as a result of their utilization of short-term credit lines for the purpose of covering financial obligations related to operations. The documents that she submitted were examined by me, the CEO. Review of the company's finances revealed that it was under a great deal of pressure and was making urgent efforts to reduce expenses and attract fresh investment. From their point of view, it was beginning to make sense to replace experienced leadership with family connections, despite the fact that this was a strategic, short-sighted move. Exactly how did you get to possess this knowledge? I inquired. Most of the time, public filings. In addition to contacts within the sector who have been monitoring their success, Victoria wore a grin. People have a misunderstanding about the size of the logistics industry. Word spreads quickly when a company begins to experience difficulties. Furthermore, she added that Bayflex Maritime had been positioned themselves to purchase troubled competitors, but the potential to employ experienced leadership and draw their client base was even more enticing than the acquisition of distressed competitors. In the event that I joined their team and brought the Petromax Industries contract with me, it would speed up their expansion ambitions by a number of years. According to Victoria, there is one more issue that you ought to be aware of. We have engaged in exploratory conversations with 2 additional clients who were formerly served by Gravura Group. They have both expressed an interest in switching suppliers. However, they are looking for confirmation that they will be working with logistics professionals that have an extensive amount of expertise. She named some names that I am familiar with. These were both accounts that I had personally managed, relationships that had been established over the course of many years of dependable service and issue solutions. Within a short period of time, Gravura Group would suffer a loss of roughly 60% of their revenue if those customers followed Petromax Industries to Bayflex Maritime. I inquired about the function that I would play in the transition of clients. The entire inland logistics division would be under your leadership, and you would have full operational authority, equity participation, and complete independence in order to construct the team that you require. Victoria took a momentary pause. One and only one criterion is that you continue to uphold the same high standards of service that helped you achieve success at Gravura Group. While I was driving back to my house, I came to the realization that this was about more than simply the change in my work. There was a significant error in judgment on the part of Gravura Group. They had made the assumption that their client ties were connected to the corporation rather than the person who had established and maintained those relationships. All of a sudden, they were going to find out how wrong they had been. My signature was placed on the contract with Bayflex Maritime on Tuesday morning. The paperwork was personally handled by Victoria Henley, and we came to an agreement that the formal start date for me would be the Monday after the next week. Consequently, we were given only 1 week to organize the transitions of the clients and get ready for what was going to happen. The very first person I called was Alyssa Cormack. I merely stated that it is finished. How wonderful. For the purpose of discussing the renewal of the contract, I will be meeting with Chase Langford on Friday. This ought to be a conversation that is engaging. What are you going to say to him? This is the truth. That Petromex Industries has made the decision to investigate other potential partnerships in the logistics industry, and that we will not be renewing our arrangement with Gravura Group following the expiration of that agreement the following month. It was easy for me to imagine Chase's response. It is quite likely that he would make an effort to arrange an urgent meeting with the chief executive officer in an effort to have a better understanding of what had gone wrong. However, by that time, it would be excessively late to attempt to save the connection. For the sake of Alyssa, I want you to know that I admire the risk that you are taking. This does not pose any danger, Walter. On the basis of 18 years of outstanding service, this is a choice that an organization has made. There is a need for dependable logistics partners at Petromex Industries, and you are the embodiment of reliability. My work consisted of establishing transition plans and analyzing client files while I was working quietly from home on Wednesday and Thursday. Victoria had provided me with extensive information regarding the capabilities of Bayflex Maritime, and I was impressed with the infrastructure and technical systems that they had in place. When compared to Gravura Group, they were in a better position to handle the complicated logistics requirements that were expected of them. During the evening of Thursday, my phone rang. The primary number of Gravura Group was shown on the caller identification system. This is James from the Office of the Chief Executive Officer, so please accept my greetings. Tomorrow morning, Mr. Davidson would like to organize a meeting with you. What is your availability? Would it be 9 o'clock? Do you work? Almost laughed out loud. In what way does he wish to talk about it? Although he did not disclose any specifics, he did remark that it was about transition planning and client relationships. Please let Mr. Davidson know that I am no longer available to assist with transition planning. The previous Friday marked the end of my job with Gravura Group. I believe that there is a possibility of a misunderstanding, sir. A fee would be required for this consultation. James, there really is no room for misunderstanding. Good luck with your evening. I was in the process of examining contracts at Bayflex Maritime's headquarters on Friday morning when Victoria came and banged on my door. She took out her phone and handed it to me, saying, "You might want to see this." The Houston Business Journal has sent out a press notice about the situation. Having lost a big client, Gravura Group's shares has dropped by 15%. Although it was brief, the article was accurate. Following the announcement that Petromex Industries will be terminating its logistics contract with Gravura Group, the company cited strategic realignment with a new service provider as the reason for the decision. Almost immediately, the stock market reacted, which resulted in a decrease in share values during periods of intense activity. How was it that the media made such a speedy discovery? I inquired about it. Publicly traded companies include Petromex Industries. They were required to provide a disclosure on the termination of the contract. Victoria wore a grin. The decision that they make about their new logistics provider is of great interest to the business sector. Suddenly, my phone rang with a text message from a number that I did not recognize. My name is Chase Langford, and I am Walter. Our conversation must begin right away. Talk to me. It was Victoria that I presented the message to. Do you have any thoughts? According to what she is saying, I believe that Chase Langford is having a really horrible day, and it is about to get even worse. During the afternoon of that day, I received 2 further calls from previous customers who inquired about my availability for consulting activities. Over the course of the evening, it became abundantly evident that the word had spread across the Houston logistics world. It was possible to hire the experienced professional, and businesses expressed interest in doing. So, it was not me that returned Chase Langford's call. I did not make any contact with the executive team of Gravura Group. Neither did I boast about my transition, nor did I make any public pronouncements about it. I had just answered the phone when it rang, and I was arranging meetings with potential customers. Everything else would be handled by the market. When Victoria came on my door 3 weeks later, she was carrying a newspaper folded under her arm. I was sitting in my new office at Bayflex Maritime at the time. When she placed the Houston Business Journal on my desk, she added, "You are going to want to read this." Following the departure of clients, the headline stated that Gravura Group was looking for emergency funding. All of the events that had transpired after my departure were described in full in the essay. Petromex Industries was the first company to leave, and within a few days, Morrison Chemical and Gulf States Energy followed suit. In their announcements of agreements with Bayflex Maritime, Both firms specifically cited the experience and dependability of our logistics staff as the reason for their respective partnerships. Within the span of just 2 weeks, Gravura Group had nearly 70% of their important contracts taken away from them. It was decided to hold an emergency meeting of the board. Personal considerations and duties to his family were cited as the grounds for Chase Langford's resignation. To ensure that business operations could continue, the chief executive officer had no choice but to agree to take out a bridging loan from private investors. Victoria pointed to a tiny piece that was located on the page that was facing her and stated, "There is more. According to reports, Chase Langford has joined the real estate development company owned by his father-in-law. It appears that his skill set is not well suited for the field of logistics." The newspaper was folded, and then I put it to the side. What about the operations that they still undertake? They are attempting to rebuild with a clientele that is far smaller. In reality, Jacob Miller, whom you were responsible for training, is the new operations manager. The day before yesterday, he called out to inquire about the possibility of a partnering arrangement of some type taking place. Yes, I do recall Jacob. Although he was a hard worker and had a great understanding of the industry, he was given an awful situation to inherit. How did you explain it to him? That we would be delighted to discuss the possibility of subcontracting, provided the potential subcontractors were capable of meeting our service requirements. This was an answer that was professional. While Bayflex Maritime was experiencing significant expansion, we were in need of dependable partners to manage our overflow capacity. In the event that Gravura Group were to successfully reconstruct its business while upholding quality standards, there might be space for partnership. On the other hand, that would be a decision on a corporate level, not a personal one. Approximately 6 months later, I was driving through the downtown area of Houston when I came across the structure that had previously served as the headquarters of Gravura Group. In the front window, there was a sign that read, "For lease." They had moved to a more compact building on the south side of town, where they intended to concentrate on providing local delivery services and subcontracting duties. Even though Jacob Miller was trying everything in his power to restore the company's reputation, the harm had already been enough done. The vast majority of their previous customers have gone on to other service providers. After pulling into a coffee shop, I sat down by the window and observed the traffic while it was still early in the morning. There was a text message from Catherine that rang my phone. I was reading Forbes when I came across the story on Bayflex Maritime. "Congratulations on the expansion of your firm. Our company's rapid expansion and effective entry into the inland logistics industry were recognized in the Forbes article that was published back in September. Our customer base had increased by a factor of 3, and we had now expanded our activities to 3 more states. I had been working for Gravura Group for 20 years, and the equity stake that had appeared to be optimistic 18 months ago was now worth more than I had earned during that time. However, the true enjoyment did not include monetary gain. When I walked into our warehouse each morning, I got to witness drivers who trusted my leadership. I also had the opportunity to deal with customers that placed a high value on long-term relationships. Moreover, I was able to construct something that was not just profitable, but also sustainable. After I had finished my coffee, I got in my car and drove to the office. Victoria was already present, and she was examining the proposals for the subsequent phase of our expansion. Companies from Dallas and San Antonio had reached out to us, and the demand for experienced logistics management was stronger than it had ever been before. She greeted me with a pleasant morning, Walter, as I entered the conference room, all set to make a change in another sector of the economy. As soon as I sat down, I activated my laptop. The city of Houston was waking up to yet another day filled with opportunities and possibilities as it looked out the window. Then I suggested that we get to work. When the phone rang, I answered it in the same manner that I always do.